Welcome to the Lakeshow podcast presented by Jack in the Box. It's a weekly deep dive into the biggest stories and topics surrounding the Los Angeles Lakers. Allie, Clifton, Christopher, McGee, Mike Trudell, Kirby Puckett.
And you have known about Kirby Puckett for many years.
Forever.
As we
since
discussed.
I was born, pretty much.
Exactly. You know
he was
what?
a star.
And these are the things, Allie. Sometimes pop culture can be a gap, but never 80s and 90s MLB players. That's it.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for sliding in sometimes for me, because last week was an epic failure for those listening.
Great t-shirt, by the way.
Great t-shirt. Is that an homage t-shirt?
It is.
Shout out homage.
Yeah. How are you guys doing? It's nice to see you in this context. Usually I'm on the other side of a TV camera and can hear you and not see you.
Yeah.
And that'll be starting in like 3 weeks. By the way.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And it'll be starting in 3 weeks, but we might as well just dive in because we're going to be starting this podcast with how we start with you every single time we come to you.
Oh, great.
The injury front.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest news. That's what's going on. Christian Wood. In case you missed it, he underwent surgery, an arthroscopic procedure on his left knee, said to be reevaluated in 8 weeks. So it puts him past the start of the season into the first week of November. So we'll start with you, Mike Trudell, on this news regarding Christian Wood. Yeah, he was so excited.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, he had been tweeting a couple times about how excited he was and ready for the season, and I'm sure excited to start working with JJ Redick and everything. So the one thing I will say first, though, the fact that it sounds like reevaluated in 8 weeks, it's not something that puts the season in jeopardy. And obviously, the start of the season he wouldn't be there, but that is encouraging, and that they could have a chance to get him back into the rotation at some point. The way that I look at it, though, just from a next man up standpoint, is that Jackson Hayes had started to get those backup big minutes anyway, really going back to about January. And remember, his big thing was figuring out how to play and stay on the court and use all of his athletic gifts without fouling. And he had struggled with that early in the season. And then he just kind of figured that out. And once he did that, great rim threat. On both ends in terms of protecting the rim and being a lob threat going up on the offensive side. It started to get some nice chemistry with LeBron in that second unit. So I think this gives Jackson Hayes a chance to come in to the first preseason game, or really just training camp, knowing that he's going to be counted upon for those minutes. And that's an encouraging thing, as opposed to kind of battling it out with Christian Wood and seeing who's going to get those minutes. So that's the place that I start. That's the positive side of it. Geeter, the part of it that is less ideal is that then what do you have behind, not just if Christian Wood is out, what do you have behind Jackson Hayes? And it's, some of the two-way players that maybe it's a Colin Castleton, maybe it's a Armel Traore, who, by the way, I kind of like from Summer League. But, that's different from having somebody with a lot of NBA experience who you could go to. Let's say it's a big team like Minnesota. They play in the regular season opener. And, hey, maybe we need Christian Wood on the glass here. So unfortunate for sure, but good news that he's not out for the season, and good news that Jackson Hayes kind of gets that early trust.
Do we know if it's related to the injury he had back at the end of the season, or is this a new injury?
Yeah,
do we know anything about that?
I'm not sure.
All we do know, I guess, is, which doesn't tell you a whole lot, but he had tweeted, "Damn, I was just feeling like my old self again and was in peak shape."
That's why I feel bad, because
But he did say minor setback. Minor.
Yeah. But, you just feel for a guy that's, listen, there's always been like I don't want to say a knock, but he came here with a certain reputation, and I think he had a clean slate in LA, and he started out doing some good things last year. We really liked him, in the media. He was awesome. He was happy to be here. And then he got hurt, and that hurt his, standing, in terms of the team. He couldn't play anymore. So obviously he wasn't a part of it. And then, in the summer he's all fired up, so you're fired up for him. So it's just a bummer.
We're going to talk about, obviously, the depth at the center position. So you just kind of threw out some ideas. And I mean, with Dave McMenamin's, the recent article that just came out, we're going to go that direction next. But I think just from that position, and Anthony Davis stating that he wants to play alongside a big a little bit more. Do you think that the Lakers...
He had so much success with it at the Olympics. Now, obviously, he's playing alongside Bam, and he's playing alongside the best players literally in the world. But it does free him up to really showcase how good he is defensively. I mean, he has that great quote after he didn't get the Defensive Player of the Year award, and he was, I don't know what he finished, 4th or 5th. But he was like, they're never going to vote for me, but I'm the best defensive player. I switch 1 through 5. I can do everything. And it was just fun to see him at the Olympics, and everyone all of a sudden be like, wow, AD defensively. We're like, yeah, Mike and I talk about this every day. We see it every game, but he has to do so much on this Laker team defensively and cover for so many areas. He's undervalued when it comes to that side of the ball. So I'm sure there's a part of him that would love to have a little help, right?
This is a topic, Allie. Can I get like 10 minutes?
Whatever
do you
you'd
think?
like.
It just no. It is a passion project talking about AD and position in the center, but I think Geeter just hit on a lot of really important points. And the biggest one is that we, as a basketball media covering entity, and then just I think people and fans in general, always underrate defense too much. So it starts there. That's the biggest reason why Anthony Davis doesn't get enough credit. Next is that of the players that focus most on defense, and you can talk about a Rudy Gobert, since you mentioned Defensive Player of the Year, or maybe a Draymond Green, a player, Evan Mobley, like players that are better on defense than offense. Anthony Davis is so much better on offense than all of those types of players that doesn't get enough credit as well. You know, this is a guy who averages 25 points basically on 55% from the field while being the best defensive player.
And if he doesn't, the criticism is crazy.
Right. And if he gets 18, right, instead of 25, it's like, where was Anthony Davis? And it's, well, the answer is doing everything on defense still and maybe not getting the ball as much because he's getting doubled or because the guards are hot or because LeBron has a great scoring rhythm that game. Maybe LeBron's, it's a center that doesn't protect the rim. LeBron's getting downhill. Where's AD? It's like, he's there setting the screen to free that. So that's a whole nother thing. But Allie, to get to your original question, and, you know, AD playing next to bigger players, and which we saw for success, the Lakers have success, of course, with Dwight Howard, with JaVale McGee when they won the title. I do think that that's great to have at least a big who can play alongside him sometimes. And, you know, Jackson Hayes is a player. Maybe we'll see that more this year. I'm super excited to see all of the ideas that JJ Redick has for this because he's the most important person here now. Like talking to Rob about the roster and then thinking about the roster himself with his coaches and thinking, what are the ways that we can listen to Anthony Davis if that's what he said. I didn't read what Dave wrote.
And he's not looking for 36 minutes next to somebody. It's like you said,
a little bit more time.
Yeah. And it's how do you balance that when, generally speaking, AD, you do have a huge advantage if he is at the 5 and if he's playing center, and that's more or less because of the offensive side of the court, and we talk about spacing principles and three-point shooting. So I too love when AD gets a chance to play alongside another big for some more minutes, while acknowledging that the best Lakers lineup is usually going to have him at the 5. And by the way, he knows that and he's super comfortable with that. It's just that balance of, hey, can you get somebody to eat a few innings alongside, maybe grab a couple rebounds, maybe rotate out to the perimeter as well. And it, like, can you accomplish both of those things? And with Christian Wood's injury, maybe that becomes a little bit harder. But, you know, who knows? Maybe that also lets the Lakers take a look at it, what it looks like when he doesn't have as much help there, in thinking about that in the future, and whether that's, you know, this year, trade deadline, next year, et cetera.
You have about 6.5 minutes left. Do you want to continue?
I mean,
of the 10 minutes.
This is your show, but I will speak about Anthony Davis for as long as you need.
Love that. Speaking of, I guess it goes into the problem, or becomes an even bigger problem for JJ Redick and his staff to figure out. And one of the key points in Dave McMenamin's article, he called roll roulette. Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, Hood Schifino will be ready to compete for minutes from the start, giving Redick more options. So with the injuries taking place, when it comes to competing for minutes, when it comes to the first couple weeks of training camp, we talked about this last week, and just in terms of what questions you're looking forward to asking and hearing from JJ Redick on how things are going. What minutes, what kind of rotations are you looking and hoping to see?
Yeah, I think it's easiest to start with the starting lineup, and of course,
who is in there for you?
Well, I would think the same as last year. Like, that's how the Lakers, they went 18-6 once Rui Hachimura began starting in February. And while it's not ideal from a defensive matchup standpoint on the perimeter, because you have Reeves and Russell next to each other, and one of them is going to have to take a really tough assignment. More often than not, that was Austin Reeves last year. But on the other side of the court, there are very few teams. Denver happens to be one of them. And last year, that's why I think Rui maybe had a bit of a slower first-round series than he might have against another opponent. There are very few teams that can handle Rui next to LeBron and AD and have a third defender, because Rui's almost as big as LeBron. And then there's Anthony Davis. And who is your third worst front court defender? Hey, go guard Rui Hachimura. Rui's going to eat, and I think he's going to take more threes under Redick. So, like, I think the Lakers have an advantage every night there on the offensive side of the court, personnel-wise, even if it creates a little bit more difficulty in those matchups on the defensive end. So that's Geeter probably where I would start as well, and then we'll kind of see how do Vincent and Vanderbilt look once they've had multiple games actually that they've been able to play, because we didn't get a look at that last year.
You took my answer. I agree 100% with Mike. It's the obvious answer is what they ended with, because we needed to see that actually more during the season. It's Rui in that starting lineup. but I am very, very intrigued to see Gabe Vincent in that lineup as well at certain times to see what we look like defensively, and then you sprinkle in Vando as well. So I want to see all those kind of combinations.
Is there one that you're looking forward to seeing, or anyone in particular in terms of making a big jump? Or is it the guys that we didn't get to see enough of last year?
I think it's the guys for me that we didn't get to see enough of because they're the ones that are going to be playing a role. I mean, obviously for me, like I also want to see Dalton connect. I'm just excited to see the hope the rookie can. But you know what? Actually, scratch that. Max Christie for me is always a guy that I want to see him as a rotational player, and I want to see it. I wanted to see it way more last year. I'm not the coach, and I'm not bad mouthing anybody. I'm saying for me personally, like when he played, I would watch him specifically, and I just saw a lot of good things. I watched his closeouts. I watched him get rebounds. I watched the way he guarded the perimeter. I watched him shoot. I thought that length and athleticism is like, I kept saying to myself, like, man, when he does start to really get more time, I think he can be a player.
For sure. And by the way, Max Christie is only 21. Also, I think he's younger than a lot of guys that got drafted this year, I think including Dalton Connect.
Yeah.
So I would go here. If you think about the two players that left the that were in the rotation that left this summer, Taurean Prince and Spencer Dinwiddie. And if you plug in Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, and then to an extent Max Christie into some of those minutes, what are you getting? Well, you're bigger, you're stronger, you are just more defensive. You're a little bit better from a rebounding standpoint. And I felt like, Allie, those were the areas that the Lakers struggled some in last year. And that to me, so I think when you just look at the roster moves overall, it's easy to say, well, the Lakers didn't necessarily do a lot. But if any team that has a returning starting five and brings in even two, and that's without Christie included, that's without Dalton Connect taking a leap in year one, and we're just talking about Vincent and Vanderbilt, like that, those are kind of big acquisitions if you look at it as an acquisition, which they should be because they barely played last year. And I think that addresses some of those concerns that I started out with. Whereas, when Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell are playing together on offense, it's great, but it's a little more challenging defensively. Well, if you can plug in a Vanderbilt or a Vincent to take on that top wing or perimeter assignment, then all of a sudden that clicks better. And I think that like JJ Redick, from what I've heard, he and his staff, they have been working. And I think he told Bres the other day, right? Like they've been grinding. He loves sickos, right? And the good news is they have been thinking about this stuff all summer and are going to have a lot of these answers, I think. So we're, of course, just speculating as to what we might think. But that, I think, is encouraging, is that you have, these longtime NBA minds like Brooks and McMillan, and then some fresh new NBA minds like Lindsey Harding, like coming in and looking at what the Lakers did on film last year, looking at the rotation, watching guys in the gym, and then they're going to piece all this together. And I think that could be fruitful.
Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being you wish the season started yesterday. 1 being you wished it was still May. How excited are we for the season to start? Because I think JJ Redick and his staff are 11.
Geeter, what's your number?
Where are we at right now? What are we, 3 weeks away?
We are, yeah. I mean,
so it always gets into an
3 weeks
interesting
away.
place in my stomach when the NFL just starts, but we're already talking about the NBA season, and I'm just,
You guys just put me in a glass case of emotion. That's a tough ask for me. I mean, you're asking me to go back and do summer again?
As in, you're just not ready for seasons to start?
Well, you had a good summer.
I had a good summer. That's what I mean. I'm kind of like happy with the summer. I'm ready to kind of move into...
so then you're ready to move into the Burrs.
Yeah.
Look.
You are?
Here, I'll answer for you while you keep thinking. I am always at peak excitement for NBA basketball. Like, even
so you're like a 10.
Now, I've enjoyed the offseason.
We're still a ways away from that.
In the terms of, like,
I don't like, Mike.
Well,
it doesn't do it for me.
Maybe so to try and come to the middle ground here.
Help me on that one.
The middle ground is like, Allie, this part of September is still necessary for us to mentally and physically ramp up, just like so. So I do think that we need the remaining part of the month to actually rev up for it.
Yeah.
But if you told me that there was going to be a game tomorrow night, I would be much more excited than I would be like, I can't believe we're starting. So I would be closer to a 10, but I do acknowledge the need for these next couple of weeks to really get ourselves mentally prepared for the season.
October 22nd.
Yeah, can we just skip to October 22nd? Yeah.
I do love this time of year because it's football, it's NFL, it's college, it's MLB playoffs, it's Lakers basketball, it's college then starting, NBA. So I do love this time of year. So yes, there's some natural excitement for me, but I'm not going to put it at 11.
At 11.
not on September.
We're we still focused on the Dodgers. Like we got to get Shohei up to 50-50.
We're not even in midway point of September yet. So let's everyone settle down.
Yeah.
Fair. Everyone. Switching gears a little bit to some social news. The Lakers, to honor Jerry West, they will wear a patch with his number 44 on it for all of next season. That was pretty cool to see that. I believe that just came out yesterday.
Love that,
day
actually.
before.
Looks great. I love that it's purple and gold. Like sometimes you see the patches
Love
and
that.
they're black, and with this one just really fitting into Mr. Laker in so many ways. Jerry West coming out here in 1960 and being that key person alongside Elgin Baylor to establish the Lakers out on the West Coast, and just the legendary, incredible career, and just like the daily reminder of him, I think is going to be real meaningful for the players.
It's a good point about the purple and gold. Yeah. I like that too.
Yeah, it looks good.
And then another moment on social media, former Lakers assistant Phil Handy said his goodbyes to the Lakers on his IG, saying this long overdue, 5 years in the books, and y'all held me down from start to finish. The amount of love Lakeshow fans showed me over the years has been unreal. I will be forever grateful for the outpouring support y'all showed the OG. We did the thing in 2020 and tried every year to compete for more. The business of basketball is not always easy or fair, but you all know what I'm about with this game and any player I've ever worked with. At Be Your Own GOAT, it's his brand. Y'all know what it is. There was also, I thought there was maybe it was gone. Because at one point there was a next move with some eye emojis. So we'll see where Phil lands, but what will you remember most about Phil?
Well, there's always a little sadness for me because I always feel like Phil's one of those guys where I just want him to be an assistant coach for Lakers forever.
Forever.
Yeah, I know that's not possible, but I liked him when we would do games and we would be on the floor. He'd always come over to me and James. I'll always remember that. He was always fun to talk to back in my reporting days. I mean, he just was always available, and I appreciated that.
I go way back with Phil to when he was first started working with Kobe, and I want to say it was the 2012 season.
Yeah, 2012.
And so and I just same as Geeter, always loved him on a personal level, loved talking hoops with him. So many players that he worked with have nothing but the best things to say about him. So I'll continue to stay in touch with him, but just certainly thank him for being here and bestowing all that wisdom. And can't wait to see what he does next.
It's going to be really weird to not see him.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My days go back to Cleveland after his first stint here in LA. He obviously came to Cleveland for those 4 years and the final runs and being alongside, obviously. And at that point, he was heavily just player development. But, the workouts every single day. I got to know his youngest son, Jackson, who we continue to see and would always be out there warming up with him. And
It's awesome.
he's one of those guys that became a friend of mine. So, wish him obviously nothing but the best. And I'm sure he'll be great wherever he goes next. Lakeshow fans, remember you can be a part of the show each week. Feel free to send us your questions and comments. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's Around a Bucket or Brick. Welcome back to the Lakeshow podcast presented by Jack in the Box. If you're enjoying this show, you can check out more original podcasts from our Spectrum News journalists on the Spectrum News app. Just head to the podcast section to listen to the latest episodes. You can download the Spectrum News app on the App Store or Google Play. Time for a little Bucket or Brick presented by Jack in the Box. Kind of touched on this a little bit, but according to Dave McMenamin, sources have made it clear that Anthony Davis, his preference is to play alongside another big man more often. JJ Redick also discussed the importance of having a big bruising big man to back up AD. Bucket or Brick, it's time to panic about the Lakers' lack of depth at the center position.
Is that me?
Sure.
I think panic is a very strong word to use at this point. So I'm definitely going to break that. This has been a discussion really since Anthony Davis came to the Lakers, and okay, what's his best position? And as the NBA has evolved and fewer centers that don't have some type of offensive skill have been able to stay on the floor as maybe they used to be. But I find that these things tend to work themselves out during the season pretty well for the most part. So I do not, I would not use panic at all. Love to see some additional help from him in the front court, but I'm not going to panic.
I listen to the words that you put out into the universe all the time. You may think
All the
I don't.
positive words.
You just may think I don't listen to you, but I listen. And you said panic.
You don't.
You had said concern. I'm working on my jumper and I'm going bucket. But panic in September? I refuse.
Why did you have to throw a jab at me?
No, I was complimenting you that I always
You said, I
listen
know
to what
you don't
said.
think I listen to you.
Oh, yeah, that was a jab. Because you, I don't know, it's always a problem with me.
I always listen to you.
I always do something wrong, Mike.
Are we like looking at our screens or something while we're talking to each other? What's happening?
Yeah, I got stuff going on over
Okay.
here.
No, usually I just I'll say hi to him and he just keeps walking.
Yeah.
Like
I
he
don't
never
believe
pays
that.
attention.
Really? That doesn't sound
Depends
like
on the day. Depends on the day.
I'm multitasking during this show
Oh, right now? God, you're
for
making it
other,
look
for
so
other
easy.
reasons.
Oh, no, I didn't
Yeah.
mean today.
Oh,
I was
okay.
saying in general. Like,
general.
were
I don't
you
know.
arguing? Oh, you're
No, I just
you know,
think
you're
like
playing
I'm
Farmville
not
or
always
something.
like I try very hard and,
Yeah.
and I fail a lot.
Okay. None of us are perfect.
Allie always letting Allie down.
None of
and
us
so,
are perfect. Yeah.
Wow. A name mentioned, that's for another day. As a possible big alongside Anthony Davis was Jonas Valanciunas, a player that LeBron offered to take a pay cut to open up the full mid-level exception for. Bucket or brick, Valanciunas would be a good fit alongside AD.
Bucket, I'll take it. Go ahead, Mike.
I mean,
Just saying he'd be a good fit. That's it.
Yeah.
Not gonna.
He's listening
taking
to my
out-
words.
I'm going to brick. I'm going to brick any specific name that I can think of right now because it just depends on how the season starts and where the Lakers are at. Like going ahead to the trade deadline, and like I want a big wing. Instead, and so I can't.
I'm into that too.
I can't commit specifically to any name.
Okay.
Mike, the question was, would he be a good fit? I got to listen to the words. And I'm just not saying you'd rather have him over.
Yeah, well, so like the type of player, right? Do you want a stretch 5 like Marc Gasol had turned into later in his career? Do you want a rim running 5? Do you want somebody that can do both? That's what I need. I want to kind of see what the roster is giving me before and if I'm speaking specifically about Valanciunas, right? He is more of a set a screen hard, roll to the rim, but isn't going to protect the rim defensively like some other centers are. And especially if you're going to try to get somebody that's on a minimum contract relative to a full mid-level, like you're going to get a variation of skill sets. So I'm just trying to keep it open.
We've discussed all the injuries this season with the opportunity for more minutes. I'll ask you, bucket or brick, Dalton Connect will make an all-rookie team this season.
It's all about minutes.
Making an all-rookie team.
You need minutes.
I'm going to bucket this because I think that all-rookie team implies that all-rookie second team is in play. I think
we'll
all-rookie
make an all-rookie team.
It's in play.
all-rookie
Trainer
first
said
team,
yep.
I think, is going to be a little harder because that's typically going to be a top 10 pick on a bad or developing team that's going to get a ton of minutes. But I think that Dalton Connect has a chance to break the rotation right away with what he can do as a shooter, as a movement shooter, with his size. And I think that JJ Redick is the best coach possible to help him along through that process. And if that's the case, then he could be playing, contributing potential big minutes off the bench for a team that could be really good. And that's the kind of guy that I think can get on all rookie second team.
Wow.
Bucket, I'm with Mike.
You're on one.
It could be a second team,
Yeah.
but I believe he's good enough. I believe he breaks the rotation like Mike said. And,
Look at y'all's listening skills. I'm very proud of you. At the league's Board of Governors meeting this week, Adam Silver discussed there wasn't discussion of expansion teams being added, but the situation would be addressed at some point this season. Bucket or brick, we will have a new NBA expansion team in the next 3 years.
All right, listening to Allie's words again, thinking about that timeline.
yeah.
3 years. You know what?
Wow.
That was an absolute Drano. With arc.
I think so. I just think that the talent in the NBA is better than it ever has been. And that's due in part to the game continuing to grow in this country, but really growing worldwide, where we have, 30% now? Or maybe like somewhere between 25 and 30, depending on the year, all of the international talent that's come in. And even the teams that are not as good, like this year, think about in the Western Conference, there are 2 teams that you could go in saying they're not trying to win this year, like Portland and Utah. And even they have a ton of talent. And especially a ton of young talent. And so could you have 2 more teams in 3 years and you could stock enough players that aren't even currently in the league? I think so. And would that be exciting to add teams, whether it's Seattle or Vegas? Those are the 2 that seem to be talked about the most. So yeah, I'm gonna bucket that.
Allie, drain this one for me. Sorry, that was a terrible pass. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
There's a lot going on here.
Oh, good.
Bucket. We all made it.
That was a
Bucket.
bank shot.
Use the bank. I
From
like
the side.
I need the bank to be on my
Yeah.
side.
We're 3 for 3 shooting.
3 for 3.
Let's
Wow.
end on that note.
Look at us go. We'll end on
Nice
that
job.
note.
We're all
Thanks to you
college,
all.
not pro athletes, but looked pro.
But-
That's fine.
We all were college athletes.
That's right.
College athletes. Thanks to you for listening to Lakeshow Podcast, presented by Jack in the Box. If you
Take a
like
lot
what
of
you hear,
pride in
leave
that
us a
fact,
rating or
that's
review
it.
on your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. Send us your questions. Hit us up on X at Relay.
That was mediocre.
Do you think
Mike
Brez
underscore
would Breza hit that one over the
Bresnahan.
top?
He is not here.
No?
What is it at Lakers reporter Mike Trudell? Until next week.
That's why we're 3.